Hello, it's Friday, July 14th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. Let's see what's up for our Friday night lights. Well, the ones in the sky, that is. Earthsky.org says it's going to be a lot like last night. We've got that summer triangle thing in action. Tonight, Vega and its constellation Lyra. Tonight, if you look eastward during the evening hours, it's hard to miss the season's signature star formation, that summer triangle. And as one might expect from any sensible triangle, it's got 3 stars, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. They're the first 3 to light up the eastern half of the sky after sunset, and their bright and sparkling radiance is even visible from light-polluted cities, or even if you have moonlight glare. Try looking first for the prominent star in the eastern sky. That will be Vega in the constellation Lyra the Harp. Vega is a blue-white star in color, and it's sometimes called the Harp Star. Many people recognize the constellation Lyra as a triangle of stars connected to a parallelogram. It's hard to gauge the humongous size of the summer triangle by looking at the chart provided by earthsky.org. And of course, one can consult that chart later by heading over to ufoheadlinenews.com. If you take a 12-inch ruler at arm's length from your eye, that will span the approximate distance from Vega to the star Altair. And an outstretched hand or less fills that gap between Vega and Deneb. More than any other month, July is the month of the summer triangle. At mid-northern latitudes, the summer triangle stars as if a trio of school kids on vacation, says Deborah Bird. They stay out from dusk till dawn, dancing amid the stars of our Milky Way galaxy. As our Earth turns tonight, Vega, Deneb, and Altair travel westward across the sky. The summer triangle shines high overhead in the middle of the night and sparkles in the west as the rose-colored dawn begins to color the sky. Oh, the poetry of the stars. Here's something that doesn't have a very good meter to it, certainly doesn't rhyme, and it's not so nice to contemplate. It's this headline: NASA can't afford to put humans on Mars. Connor Gaffey writes this for Newsweek. Colonizing Mars has long captivated the human imagination, and NASA is no exception. The American Space Agency has made landing humans on Mars a high priority of its exploration programs, and under bipartisan 2010 legislation, pledged to develop the capabilities to send humans to that planet by the 2030s. But there remains a major problem standing between mankind and the red planet: money. The head of NASA's program on human exploration of space, William Gerstenmaier, said on Wednesday that with its current budget, the agency simply cannot afford the cost of propelling a manned spacecraft to Mars. Here's Gerstenmaier's quote: "Through this horizon, through the 2030s, I can't put a date on humans on Mars," end quotes. And that was his response to a question at a propulsion meeting of the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics in Georgia. He continued, quote, "At the budget levels we've described, it's roughly a 2% increase. We don't have the surface systems available for Mars. That entry, descent, and landing is a huge challenge for us for Mars," end quotes. NASA has landed several unmanned exploratory vehicles on Mars in the past. The Curiosity rover, which landed on Mars August 2012 and will soon be celebrating its 5-year anniversary exploring the planet, cost around $2.5 billion. Gerstenmaier said a manned mission to Mars would weigh around 20 times what previous rovers have weighed. Quote, "So it's a 20-fold increase in capability," end quotes, he said, likely meaning also a higher cost. Lawmakers allocated NASA a budget of $19.5 billion for the 2017 fiscal year. That equates to less than 0.5% of the overall federal budget. The agency has not produced a specific figure of the cost of a manned mission to Mars, and estimates vary depending on sources. In 2012, the head of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Brent Sherwood, estimated that the project could cost up to $100 billion over the course of 30 to 40 years. More recently, Pascal Lee, the director of the Mars Institute, it's a nonprofit research group funded partially by NASA, based at a NASA research center in the Silicon Valley, said in May that a human mission to Mars could cost up to $1 trillion over 25 years. Private organizations that are working on their own missions to Mars have estimated lower costs. Mars One, for instance, a Dutch-Swiss organization aiming to establish a permanent settlement on Mars, aims to bring 4 people to Mars at a cost of $6 billion. And SpaceX founder Elon Musk, who has said he wants to send humans to Mars in the early 2020s, has put the cost at $10 billion per person in 2016. Landing on Mars poses numerous threats for a manned mission. The spacecraft must angle its entry into the Martian atmosphere correctly. If it's too steep, the craft may burn up. If it's too shallow, the craft may miss the planet altogether. Astronauts must use reverse thrusters and parachutes to slow the spacecraft down so that it is not destroyed upon impact with the surface. The craft must also locate a safe landing surface on the rugged terrain of Mars, parts of which are peppered with gigantic craters. And while research has shown that liquid water once flowed on Mars, a recent study found that the soil is toxic to bacteria. Yes, we covered that here at UFO Headline News. Not a good sign. Bacteria, one of the simplest forms of living organisms, and thus may also pose a problem, that Martian toxic soil, for sustaining human life. Let's move from human life to perhaps other life, perhaps sighted in the sky over a Mexican town. This is from AOL.com.uk. Here's the headline: Flying saucer caught on camera above Mexican town. And this is a United Kingdom travel site, by the way. Bizarre footage showing what appears to be a flying saucer-like UFO hovering above a town has sparked an online controversy. Stunned eyewitnesses filmed the phenomenon with their smartphones in the small town of Progreso de Madero, which is located in the Quecholac municipality of central Mexico's Puebla state. The footage, and you can find that footage later via link at ufoheadlinenews.com, shows a huge black ring hovering in the sky, and it left local residents quite baffled. Some were convinced that it was a flying saucer. Others saw that the object was partially enveloped in a cloud, and hence they thought it was a weather-related phenomenon. Eyewitnesses can be heard in the background of the video trying to explain this apparition. One woman asks, "What is that?" And a man replies, "A flying saucer?" Another woman speculates, "It's a rain formation." But a man counters, "No, it's not. It's a black wheel." And a woman notes, "It's going up." The black ring quickly disappeared from view, and there still is no official explanation for it. Citizen of the netizen Alejandro Lopez Robles was convinced he had seen something otherworldly. His comment? "It's a flying saucer." But Xavier Burns Red felt there was a more natural explanation. He added, quote, "I have never seen a whirlwind before. Impressive," end quotes. There have been a number of reported sightings of UFOs above Mexico in recent months. Motorist Carlos Arreola filmed a black disc in the sky above the city of Morelia in the state of Michoacan in central Mexico last April. Fascinating stuff. It really could be perhaps the bottom of a whirlwind. It's fascinating to look at these shots, this video. There's almost a resemblance to hole punch clouds, as in that famous hole punch cloud which appeared over Gate 17 at Chicago's O'Hare Field. Yep, just a cloud. But we digress. Let's shift our focus now to openminds.tv and this headline: Cloverdale UAP project investigating the spook lights, a UFO phenomenon in Alabama. Well, this is new to this broadcaster. Let's just jump right in. Richard Hoffman writes this for openminds.tv. Most ufologists are keenly aware of the frequent reports of what people often refer to as orbs, which lack much clarity. The term is often used to describe objects that turn out to be everything from Chinese lanterns to ball plasma, and even navigation lights on aircraft. The term's also used to describe lens flares created from pointing cameras toward a bright light source, an out-of-focus light, and is also a dust particle, perhaps, that floats in front of a camera with a bright light, and that's seen in lots of ghost investigations. There exists another class of objects that science has yet to fully explain, which seem to be a naturally recurring phenomena seen in certain geographic areas with increasing frequency, almost always at night. And in 1973, in Piedmont, Missouri, they experienced a rash of sightings of luminous phenomena. This was documented by Dr. Harley Rutledge in his book Project Identification. Dr. Rutledge had a team conduct a field study over a period of years, capturing scientific data, video, and photographic evidence. They were hoping to learn more about the nature of this thing. Dr. Rutledge's summary reported that these lights are consistent with other observations in other areas. So let's head from Missouri to Cloverdale, Alabama. It's a small town located in the northwestern part of Alabama, and similar lights were being seen almost nightly. They appeared to be balls of luminous lights of varying colors. Residents saw these objects so frequently, they just ignored them. Quote, "It's those dang lights again," end quotes. The Coverdale phenomena continues to appear even today. Enter Wyatt Cox. He's a former native of the area. He now lives in South Carolina and has documented and classified many hundreds of sightings that a friend and he observed, and he's got this in his book. The book is entitled Spook Lights, The Amazing Coverdale, Alabama Spook Light Mystery. Wyatt Cox has done an excellent job in creating a classification system for the variations seen. In other words, the colors that tend to be blue or yellow-orange or white, etc. These lights vary in size, speed, and duration based on the colors noted. White lights are generally seen during warmer months, whereas the yellow-orange lights tend to be seen during the cooler months, October through April. These spook lights, now referred to as Earth lights by Wyatt Cox, tend to be 8 feet in diameter. The blue and white ones are 2 to 4 feet in diameter. They travel in straight-line paths, east to west or reversed, and they can be at ground level and rise to altitudes of several thousand feet. They move at 20 miles per hour, but they can also stop and then proceed in their path. The lights can go out and then come back on as they proceed on this path, and they generally disappear by just fading out. Every serious UFO researcher and field investigator needs to get a copy of these books mentioned here, says Richard Hoffman, along with other works. For instance, William Corliss, who writes on luminous phenomena. Corliss has done an excellent job of categorizing, referencing, and even illustrating the myriads and types of luminous phenomena observed on the Earth. Both Corliss and Cox see these objects as naturally occurring phenomena, not alien spacecraft. They're very similar to the lights in Hessdalen, Norway, and to the Marfa lights, the Paulding lights, Crosset lights, Gordon lights, and one could go on, various other areas around the globe. It's Richard Hoffman's opinion that it can explain a vast number of UFO sightings, even outside of these geographic areas reporting the orbs. And now, similar to the field study conducted by Dr. Rutledge, a scientific field investigation is being planned for the Coverdale area this fall. They're seeking to secure the best equipment possible: spectroscopes, gravimeters, magnetometers, cameras capturing images in multiple parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, and other data collection tools. They're going to have trained users of that equipment to see what they can learn. Plans include the possible use of a drone to see if they can get close-ups of these lights, drones equipped with sensors. The outcome will be to deliver a report on their findings and share the data collected. They've already begun collecting geological data, earthquake zone data, and weather data for the area. If you're interested in this study enough to want to find out more, there's a link you can check out later at UFO Headline News. You can contact Richard Hoffman, who wrote this article, and it sounds to us like he's going to be part of this field investigation. Cool. We're sure he will keep everybody posted at openminds.tv. And right here at UFO Headline News on Inception Radio, we will keep you in that loop. Spook lights. Cool. From Alabama, let's go not too far away to Kansas City, Missouri. This is a UFOstalker.com event. MUFON gave it a case number 8504.
Oh, wow. You're actually wearing your hair down tonight.
Yeah, because I finally decided that I love my hair. I figured out the solution for my morning frizz, midday poof, and even next day bedhead. It's Frizz E's Secret Weapon Touch-Up Cream by John Frieda.
Well, you and your hair look flawless.
Flawless and touchable. Feel.
Oh.
See? It's soft. Smooth ends, no flyaways, shiny.
Well, I clearly need to get some because your hair looks amazing.
Frizz E's Secret Weapon, only from John Frieda.
47. This took place and was reported on July 11th, 2017. Here's what the summary says, according to our witness. Cylinder object in sky. No sound. Flames emitting from rear. Sighting specifics go something like this. A viewing distance unknown. An altitude also unknown. Sighting duration 3 minutes. The object features unknown. And the flight path was stationary, a straight line path. According to the witness, the object shape category doesn't apply. It's a short report. Sounds kind of cozy. Kansas City, Missouri. Here's what happened. I was sitting on my neighbor's porch when she pointed and said, "What is that?" Our witness then just adds these words: cylindrical object, larger, possibly lower than a plane. Red flames seem to emit from the tail end. It seemed to move from northeast to southwest. It was obscured by trees. My neighbor claims to have seen it hover in one spot. Then it disappeared. I never saw it again. I got out my phone to record it, but it disappeared before I could. Yup, they do that. Let's head over to the state of Tennessee, the city of Lenoir City. They spell that Lenoir. This is a report from the New Fork database. That's the National UFO Reporting Center. This occurrence took place June 21st, 2017. It got a same-day report, but somehow just appeared recently. The shape of this object is simply described as light, and the duration of the sighting was 30 seconds. 2 orbs traveling side by side under dense cloud coverage at 4:09 a.m. I awoke at 4 a.m. I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I also looked around to see what the weather was like. I noticed the clouds were thick and dense. There were no stars visible, no aircraft apparent at this time. I live 15 miles from an airport, so I notice aircraft daily. There are no trees in my yard, and I have a large, open neighborhood as well. As I stared out, looking towards the south, I noticed light above me. When I looked up, I saw 2 lights traveling from the north, coming directly over me. They appeared to be no more than 150 feet in the air. I watched as they traveled. I could clearly see them below the clouds, and they were not a part of any aircraft, nor were they attached to any object, such as a drone. I watched for about 7 seconds as they turned off. I then felt fear come over me, for I was aware there was no other explanation that I could fathom for these lights being there. This was very close, highly visible. There was no mistaking this for an aircraft. There was no noise, and it wasn't consistent in speeds of typical airplanes or helicopters. And the stars and clouds were so thick they were covering the entire sky. I went back into my home to retrieve my phone. I came back out, and as I stepped out, I could see that one of those orbs or lights was turned back around, heading back in the direction on a northerly path, the path it originally came from. The other light wasn't visible. The visible light then turned off or burned out, just as the porch door closed behind me. I could still see a sort of ember or an outline of this light, but I'm not sure if it wasn't just my eyes adjusting to what they had seen. The chirping of the morning birds was the only sound. Interesting, the birds chirping. In lots of sighting events, everything natural goes silent, even the crickets. Let's shift our trajectory to the east coast of the United States and hope that the folks back there are having better weather than they did yesterday. Lots of chaos, lots of thunderstorms, etc. We'll go to Jefferson, New Hampshire. That's where MUFON case number 85086 took place. The date of this sighting is the 10th of July, 2017. It was reported July 13th, 2017. The summary: orb appeared as fireball, moved northward slowly, then north-northeast, rapidly, then disappeared. Video is provided by our witness here, and you can check that out later at ufoheadlinenews.com. There's also a still shot. The viewing distance under the sighting specifics categories was 501 feet, eventually 1 mile. The altitude was 500 feet or less. The duration of this sighting was 3 minutes, and the object features are simply reported as none. The flight path was a path including, at some point, directional change. The object shape, sphere. There's a little bit of weather, so let's read it. The maximum temperature was 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 degrees Celsius, dropping down to a minimum temperature of 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 13 degrees Celsius. The visibility factors: maximum was 10 miles, 16 kilometers, as was the mean visibility and the minimum. The conditions were nothing abnormal for Jefferson, New Hampshire's weather. So it seemed to go something like this. On July 10th, my wife and I were camping at the Lantern Campground in Jefferson, New Hampshire. It was just after 9 p.m., and my wife and I were sitting by the campfire. My wife yelled to me, asking me, "Eric, what is that in the sky?" Initially, I looked, and I couldn't see anything. The portable canopy we set up apparently was blocking my view. My wife then repeated her question, asking what was that in the sky. She then motioned for me to come over to where she was. She was sitting in her chair. She wanted me to see this for myself. So I got up and walked over to her, looking into the sky. I could not believe my eyes. It was a yellow-orange, glowing, orb-like object, moving very slowly in a north-northeasterly direction. It appeared to be pulsating. At first I wasn't sure that it wasn't a Chinese flying lantern. I've seen those on TV. I thought this could possibly be the explanation, as this object appeared to be on fire. I very quickly dismissed this assumption, as the orb appeared much more spherical in appearance than any lantern. So I quickly retrieved my phone from my camp chair and took a photograph. I then switched the camera to video and began recording the video of this orb. I recorded 22 seconds of video. I stopped recording then because as I was recording, it looked to me like the video quality wasn't very good. It appeared very grainy. After I stopped the recording, the orb continued for another minute or two in a north-northeasterly direction. Rather quickly then, this orb changed course to head to a more northerly direction, and it appeared to accelerate quickly. The orb appeared smaller and disappeared from sight. Altogether, this entire incident lasted approximately 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 very dramatic minutes. Thank you for your report, Eric. Let's swing on over to the state of Delaware, city of Ocean View. MUFON case number 85044. The date of this sighting was the 11th of July this year. It got a same-day report. Here's the summary. Removing items from back of truck. Notice bright light. Pulled out phone to video. Phone preset to picture. Orange firelight craft veering left then right in an S curve. Well, that's just the summary. There is a set of still shots captured by our witness, and you can find those later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Sighting specifics provide a viewing distance of 501 feet, eventually turning to 1 mile. The altitude was over 500 feet, and that night in Ocean View, Delaware, there was cloud cover. The sighting duration, 20 minutes. Object features, unknown. The flight path was a path with directional change, and this object's shape is described as fireball. It started out with just the ordinary, usual things one does in the business of living. Our witness had, quote, just returned from market with items in the bed of my truck. I was carrying the items into my house. When returning to the truck, I noticed an orange fire-like light in the clearing in front of my house. At first I thought it was a strange colored light for a plane, and it glowed like a fire in the sky. So I pulled out my phone to video this light. However, my phone camera is set to photo, so I pushed the button, and I was able to capture a shot before the light disappeared behind the trees. I witnessed this craft veer left and then veer right again, as if it were going through an S-curve. The light ejected or shot a flash of light, a beam, from the bottom of the craft, and at that moment I doubted it was a plane. A pulse of light the same color as this craft was shot straight down from the bottom of the craft. Immediately I ran inside the house with the picture and showed my wife and daughter. We all walked outside to see if we could see the craft again, but we did not. That's how it rolls. We gotta roll because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Join us for the weekend as we go off the beaten path. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.